Has anyone in this room ever broken the law? My name is Jodi Jinks, and I make performance with prisoners who look an awful lot like me and you. These words are written by a student of mine at the John Lilly Correctional Center. William has a receding hairline and a dimple in his chin. He wrote these words as part of Reflections of Time, the first autobiographical devised performance made by ArtsAloud OSU and the men of John Lilly Correctional Center. So why do I connect with prisoners? There are a lot of reasons, but I will tell you one of them. For much of my life, I felt as though I didn't have a voice. I'm sure I'm not the only woman of a certain age who has felt as though what she said was either not taken seriously or ignored. And I realized that the stage was where I could be heard. I realized that that's where I could be seen. It was a place where my creativity was celebrated and not stifled. Performance is where people can connect, where people can talk about being human. I believe that when we connect to one another, we create empathy and self-love. And of course, with empathy and self-love, it becomes very difficult to hurt each other or ourselves. My ArtsAloud class is held at 9:45 on Friday mornings in the chapel. There is a bathroom in one corner and the chaplain's office in the other corner. There are maroon plastic chairs and faux wooden folding tables. There are count sheets and corrections officers and announcements that interrupt constantly. The men wear gray scrubs or sometimes patched jeans and sneakers or boots. The room smells like stale morning breath and sleep. These are not your glammed up people of Orange is the New Black. The men wait for class to begin, holding composition books because spirals aren't allowed. And they hold pens that say OSU Theater Department. In those books are memories and dreams, success stories, wishes, fears, and most of all, potential. So, how did a privileged white woman start making plays with men in Oklahoma prisons? Let me go back a couple of decades. In 1994, I made my Broadway debut in a musical called Blood Brothers. I was a replacement for a cast member who had left. At the end of my first performance, unbeknownst to me, this company had a very gracious tradition of nudging a new actor to take a solo bow. I walked a couple of steps downstage, and I tilted my torso to bow. I saw 1,000 people seated before me in blue spill light, and I thought, nah, this isn't it. There is something else for me. I mean, can you believe this? I was the luckiest actor in the world, and still I thought this. But what was it? Now, I know that this was a collaborative effort. It took hundreds of people to get me to that place on the Broadway stage, and I was forever grateful. But there was something missing. I didn't know what it was. It took me 11 years before I found out. In 2005, I was a teaching artist in Austin. I was a divorced mother, and I had recently become a company member of an ensemble-based theatrical organization called the Rude Mechanicals, now called the Rude Mecs. I was learning how to make devised performance. It was exciting and relevant and political and hilarious, and most importantly, very, very smart work. This same year, the Rudes offered a performance artist series. And in it, they had Deb Margolin, Lois Weaver, and Peggy Shaw, formerly known as Split Britches. Deb Margolin taught me that our everyday lives are worthy of performance. The Rude Mex exposed me to processes of making new material, the likes of which I had never even dreamed of before. And Peggy and Lois told me about making prison theater back home. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I went home after that workshop and thought all night about how can I do this. As the universe would have it, 4 months later, Madge Darlington, an artistic director of the Rude Mex, and myself were making our first play with women at the Geo Lockhart prison in Texas. That was it. I found what I was looking for. I saw these women come alive before me, and I knew that I wanted to facilitate the performance of people's stories. Now, again, this was a collaborative effort, this moment in my journey as an artist. With generous support from my college roommate and best friend, Felicia Bender, and support of the 501c3 of the Rude Mechanicals, I was able to develop ArtsAloud. I worked exclusively with women in prisons, jails, rehab centers, and also a shelter. The next phase of my life was dedicated to giving back. In the fall of 2012, I began my tenure track here at OSU. That same year, I was awarded the Mary Lou Lemon Endowed Professorship in support of ArtsAloud, now ArtsAloud OSU. Thank you, Mr. Bob Lemon, for needing to represent the underrepresented in Oklahoma. Here's how the structure of this program. So ArtsAloud is now in 2 prisons with 2 lead teachers. We meet once a week for 2 hours, and over the course of 3 to 6 months, the prisoners make a play based on their stories. They perform the play for an audience of their peers. Then I take their play and I give it to a group of select OSU theater students. We rehearse the play, and then we take it into the prison and give it back to the prisoners. This part is called the give back, and it is profound. It is profound. This, again, is another collaborative effort. The Bureau of Justice Statistics shows us that the United States has more people in prison than any other country in the world. We know this. Oklahoma is ranked 4th in terms of prison population, and Oklahoma has more women in prison than any other state in this country. How do we want to treat our people in prison so that they don't recidivate? Do we want to shame them? Do we want them to feel awful and worthless? I believe that art is the answer. I believe that ArtsAloud OSU can give these people a way to feel good about who they are as they write about all the things their hands have done and all of the places their feet have taken them. The NEA has a new slogan, "Art works," and I so believe it does. I've seen people blossom, feel empowered by the work that they can do in those notebooks, by the way their bodies can move and stage, by the way that they can sing. I believe that we are all connected. I believe that connection to one another is the way to achieve empathy so that we stop hurting each other. I believe that we all have a voice that needs to be heard. I'll leave you with the same quote that William gave you at the beginning. What is forgiveness? Is it something you're willing to give? And under what circumstances? Thank you.